Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I hope you are all doing well. My name is Amy Julian, and I'm the Director for the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support at Illinois State University. We are here in our third part of our series, Thriving in a Virtual Workplace, and today's webinar is Bringing Your Best Self to the Virtual Workplace. We have talked quite a bit about different aspects of work. What are those online tools that you can use, Zoom, GoToMeeting, Microsoft Teams. Then we've talked about how to lead, how to be kind, how to lead with empathy. And today we're going to spend a little time really looking at what we can do individually as employees, as people throughout the whole world working virtually, and what are those things that we need to do to bring our best self to the workplace. Again, ground rule, everyone who is an attendee, there's quite a few of you today, and welcome. Your phone lines are going to be muted for sound quality. If you do have questions, post those in the question box. We do encourage you to introduce yourselves and put your name in the question box or chat pane. Do understand with GoToWebinar, you either have a question box, a chat pane, sometimes you have both, or sometimes it's all combined, depending on if you are opening in the app, or if you are opening on the web-based browser, or if you are opening on your phone. So please communicate in whatever form or fashion you can. We are putting some great links into the chat pane, so you should be able to see those for where to find some resources. And again, if you have questions as we go through, we'll be sure to address those. What we're going to cover today is best practices for self-care and productivity that you can put to work immediately. Everything that we've covered in this series are really things that you can start today and put into focus right away. We're going to allow time for questions. And then I want to kind of point out, if you didn't or were not able to see, we do have two other webinars in this series. The series is titled Thriving in a Virtual Workplace. We have best practices for remote work and best practices for leading a virtual team. And both of those are available on the ICSPS website as well as on the WorkNet website. So as we get started this morning, best practices to be your best and most productive self. And this, we've kind of kept with the 9. We're not, apparently not top 10 people here, we're top 9 people. And these are the 9 that we're going to be looking at. Being kind, focus on physical health, productivity takes practice, sticking to a routine, protecting your mental health, keeping in touch with others, and don't letting technology get you down. I'm not going to read all those to you, but we will be going through these each bit by bit. And I do want to introduce our presenters today because we have some new people. We have myself again, Amy Julian. With me today is Jennifer Phillips, who is our Strategic Initiative Coordinator from ICSPS. And also with us today is Martha Smith. And Martha has been with our center and is also new to working at home, but also has a history in HR and really focuses on that bringing your best self. So we wanted to spice it up today. So thank you, Martha and Jennifer, for being with us today.
Great to be here.
Thanks, Amy.
So one of the things we want to say as we talk about working from home is we're not on vacation. And I know that's kind of a Captain Obvious moment there, but I want us to focus on that and think about it for a second. A lot of times when people say, oh, you're so lucky you get to work from home, all of us have been pushed into this working from home environment. It is not a vacation. We are not getting to spend all this extra time. And there is, of course, the COVID stress, the COVID pandemic that is happening that is lending itself to additional stress, additional focus, taking us away from our regular work and schedule. And then we also have a lot of distractions in our home. We're not necessarily always the only people working from home. So it's not a vacation, and that's something to be aware of. The other thing I want to talk about is that we are fortunate. All of us on this webinar who are talking about working from home are fortunate that we are able to work from home. So though it's not a vacation, it is actually a huge, wonderful privilege to be able to do my job and fulfill my deliverables and do the things that I need to do from home and not have to risk my life or the life of my family members to do my work. And I think we need to look at it as such, as though some people are saying, oh, it's a stress to work from home, but it's a privilege that we're able to. And it's an amazing advancement in technology that we're able to work from home. So we are very fortunate to be in this working from home environment. And we want to focus on what we can do to make ourselves be most productive, but also acknowledge that there is a lot of stress going on in the world. And how do we really adhere to and acknowledge, and then how do we deal with that stress? while still being productive. Today's focus is on how we bring our best self to the virtual workplace. And I want to acknowledge that it's hard. There are a lot of people who have a lot of things going on, and I know that I have said the last two webinars, so I don't want to be repeating myself, but there is not a single person on this planet who has not been impacted by COVID-19. Especially in this country, especially in this state, everyone is impacted. Whether we know somebody who has it, whether we know somebody who is on the front lines, the grocery worker, the nurse, the doctor, an EMT, or whether we are just impacted because we are currently displaced. We are currently impacted because we're under that work from home order or under that shelter in place order. So everyone is being impacted. This is a disruption, and so it is going to be a little hard. And so it's okay. Be kind to yourself. We've said that. That's been a theme. But also take that breath, take that moment, and be willing to acknowledge that. I want to reinforce that anxieties we are feeling are normal. Everybody has anxieties. And we're going to talk about how we really are recommending you don't watch the news 24/7, that you don't look at the counts of who is infected and what the issues are as you go to bed. Those are things that do not help you personally. That information can wait, and having it on constantly, honestly, just builds your anxiety and really lends itself to less productivity because you're focusing on that. Big disclaimer, we are not mental health experts, okay? We've done a lot of research. We've put a lot of things together. We have reviewed many articles. But we are not mental health experts. I have taken probably 2 psychology classes in my life. And so that's a big disclaimer. We are not here to provide you with mental health advice. We're here to provide you with mental health strategies. And please take them and implement them if you wish. And if you don't, that's fine. But I do want to acknowledge that we are not mental health professionals. We have organized information in a way that is helpful, that we hope is helpful to you. And just like the previous webinars, we are focused on providing you with guidance and tools, and keep learning and adding to your own skills in your remote work. The format of our webinar will be the same as the others, and we will share our 9 best practices that we've outlined here. And we want to leave you room for questions at the end, so we remind you to please use that question and answer box. So with that, I'm going to hand the floor over to Martha.
Thanks, Amy.
And she's going to start with be a kind person, not a toxic person. Thank you, Martha. Go ahead.
Absolutely. I'm going to talk a bit about bringing your kindest self to your workplace. And it's interesting that I feel like I have to do full disclosure here that the first thing we're talking about is when you're not the only one working from home in your home. I live alone, so I know Amy and Jen don't. So if they want to chime in with any personal insight, I invite them. So, again, kind of reinforcing what Amy just talked about, just acknowledge that this is probably the weirdest situation you've experienced in your lifetime. It's new for all of us, and I think if we recognize that in ourselves and also in one another, that will help quite a bit to just take a breath and remember that. In light of that, do what you can to accommodate one another. That entails being sensitive to one another's needs, asking for
Martha.
Yes.
Martha, we're having a few people say that you're having trouble with your audio. Can you hold your microphone a little bit closer, please?
I sure will. Sorry. Is this better, everyone?
Much better. Thank you.
Okay. I'm so sorry. Let's pick up with do what you can to accommodate one another. And that, I think, just boils down to being sensitive to one another, picking up on subtle cues, and sometimes being not so subtle, asking what the other person needs if they're not telling you. Give each other physical space whenever you can. Ideally, if you have 2 separate workplaces, that's great, but sometimes that isn't always the case. So find time to work in little breaks, maybe take a walk, maybe just go to a different part of the house if you can. This is important. Talk and work through problems before they get big. If you notice something that you're just there's a little friction there, be gentle and kind of address that as soon as you can in a kind and gentle way. One thing, and Amy talked about this a little earlier, is share the broadband. A lot of times it's the technical issues that are going to escalate that conflict bar a little bit. So if you can, try to coordinate what you think might be your high usage times for the broadband. And again, remember to be kind. This is difficult for everyone. So if you've gone through this bulleted list and all else fails, I have another list. Just remember that everyone reacts to stress and change in their own way. And some of us, I think, might be a little more skilled at navigating those than others. So just bear that in mind. Try to meet the person where they are and communicate with them in that way. Always extend the benefit of the doubt to coworkers to avoid creating conflict. Start by assuming that they have the best interest in what they're asking you to do or where the conflict may be originating. Remember that you're both hopefully working toward the same goal. So just bear that in mind. Always give them the benefit of the doubt. If there is conflict, don't rely on emails or text to resolve misunderstandings. That is a really kind of habitual and easy go-to thing to go to. Pick up the phone and talk. A lot of times things can be misinterpreted via email or text. You don't really know what's going through the other person's mind and how they're going to receive whatever message you send them. So pick up the phone, confirm that everything is, the message is being received that you intended. And honestly, at least if you're me, it's harder to get angry at someone if you're hearing their voice. Sometimes the people that you work with might be struggling with this situation. Again, there's always time to encourage teammates. If they ask for help and tips, give it to them. But it's, like I said, we all handle this in our own way. So step up when you can and provide an encouraging word, a little inspiration. And I think in line with that, just show your appreciation. And you can't give enough compliments, I don't think, especially in this situation. And if that fails, just blame it on Cheryl. I have invented an imaginary workmate. She leaves dishes in the sink. She doesn't turn off equipment. She's horrible. So invent Cheryl, make her one of your coworkers, or go back to your youth and reinvent that imaginary friend that you had. And now I'll hand it off to Amy to talk about who do you want to be.
Thank you, Martha. So yeah, we don't have a Cheryl in my house yet because there are 4 of us, and we have a dog though, so we blame my dog Scout for everything. One of the things we want you to ask yourself in kind of a reflection is, who do you want to be during this period? And who do you want to be not only for yourself, but also for your loved ones, for your children, for your coworkers? Who do you see yourself as? So are you in the fear zone? Are you in the learning zone? Or are you in the growth zone? And this we have taken, again, everything's cited down here. This is not something we created. But living in the fear zone is really going to increase your stress level. And everything that they're telling us is if your blood pressure is high and if your stress is high, that's not healthy. We know that. So are we in the learning zone? Can we move into the learning zone and give up what you can't control? And that's really important, is focusing on what are those things you can control, what are those things you can't control, what are those things you can influence. I like to say that I am able to control my own actions, but I can influence my children's actions. And I can try actually it's failing miserably, but I can try to influence my parents in what their actions are. But again, the influence you have is different. And then what are those things you have absolutely no control over? People's behavior, things in other cities or other states or other parts of the country. So keep that in mind, and that will, take that breath and say, okay, what can I control? How can I be the best that I can be through this really trying time? But what are those things that I have no control over? So as we talked in the first webinar, routines are really important. And I want to stop here and do some polling questions before we get into this. So we're going to give you a polling question. And the first question is, if your boss asked you to turn on your camera today, would you do it or would you make an excuse? And your options are, yes, I would do it, I'm ready for the day, or no, I'd find an excuse not quite fit for public. So go ahead and respond there. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to respond, and let's see where you all see you're fitting today. And I'll be honest, where I'm fitting is I would probably find an excuse. I have not had makeup on for many, many weeks now, and I'm okay with that. Okay, results are still coming in, so I'll give you about another 10 seconds, and then we're going to share. And again, your poll is right over there in your navigation. It should be either above or below your chat. So we're going to close that and share. Look at this, 84% of you said, do it, I'm ready for the day. And 16% said that you'd find an excuse not quite fit for public today. So sadly, I'm with the 16% that I could be ready for the day with a little bit of powder and some other fun stuff. So let's try another one. And I want you to be honest. This is not anything that's going to get you into any trouble, but are you dressed for your day or for the workplace? Are you dressed for the day? Dressing for the day. The other option is I'm up and business casual every day. Option 3 is I'm in leggings or sweatpants today and most days. And if shorts are business casual, then yes, I'm dressed for the day. So where do you guys fit in there? How do we look out in Illinois? Again, this is entirely anonymous, so no one has any idea who's responding what. If you are concerned your boss is online and going to see that you're not dressed for the day, there's no way for them to know. So yes, everyone on my team is probably changing their answers now. They're like, sweet, nobody can know what my answers are. So with that, we're going to close the poll, and we're going to share that out. And we have 50% of you are in leggings or sweatpants today and most days. 20% are up in business casual every day, and 18% are dressed for the day, not necessarily the workplace. And that's okay. That's fantastic. That's great. We're going to do one more, just one more last one here before we go back into the presentation. And so what is your work-life balance? Do you feel it's going good? I'm feeling very productive. You're hanging in there, getting stuff done, but it's a challenge. You feel like you're losing your mind, you're ready to go back to work, or you need guidance and direction from your supervisor daily. So how do you feel you're doing? Again, I'll give you another 10 seconds on this one, and then we'll close this down. And I have to admit, I'm very much a going good. I feel very productive. I don't feel I need to have makeup on to do my job. And actually, most people who are on my direct team know that sometimes I don't wear that to work anyway. So we're going to close there. I do when I come out and present for all of you, though. And there we go. Work-life balance. 62% are saying that you're hanging in there, you're getting stuff done, but it is a challenge. And again, that's probably why you're here and wanting to learn some fun tricks and tips. So let's talk about what routine we can get into. So what are some helpful tips for a routine? And I love the little cartoon here that says, oh, can we go back, please? I can't remember if I'm work at home or do I live at work. And at this day and age, or these last few weeks, it kind of does feel that way. So Some fun things about your routine. Start your day in the regular way. Do not sleep till 7:50 and then wake up to be at work at 8. Start your day in the normal way. Personal hygiene is important. It's important to keep COVID-19 at bay, but it's also important to feel normal. So be sure you are practicing personal hygiene. I have found that I've had to have that discussion with my 13-year-old a lot. 13-year-old boys are a very interesting little animals. Eat breakfast. If you usually would have gotten up and ate breakfast, eat breakfast. If you're not a breakfast eater, that's okay. But if that's part of your routine, be sure you're doing it and not waiting till lunch. That helps your brain and everything stay in that normal situation. Set up a workstation in your home. We've talked about this before. And make your bed in the morning. There is a lot of cognitive studies out there that show that if you make your bed in the morning, it kind of has that idea of order in your life, and then you feel more productive for the day. So don't work from your bed, make your bed, and set up a workstation in your home that's not in your bedroom. We want you to be getting out of your bedroom. Maybe a designated workstation would really be what we absolutely want you to adhere to. That's not always feasible. And if it's not, then do the best you can, but really set up a place where you are working. Create a workspace in your home that helps you compartmentalize your day, and that's what we're talking about, that workspace. So I get up, I come into my home office, I do my work, and then when it's family time, we go into the family room or we go outside because it's been beautiful outside. But it's not all in one space. We're not having our bedroom and our office and our kitchen all in the same room. Start your work and end your day as you would if you were in the office, and that's really important. In addition, wrap up your day and check out. That's why that compartmentalizing is so important. So if you wrap up your day, either shut your laptop if it's on your kitchen, on your kitchen table and walk away, or leave the room, leave your home office, leave whatever room you're working in and go on a walk, go somewhere else. But you need a starting and ending time for the day. That's good for your mental health. That's good for you to understand that this is now relaxed time. We don't have to be putting 30 hours a day in because there's not 30 hours in a day to put in, but you understand what I'm saying. Like, be sure you have that break. And then communicate your work schedule to your family. One of the things that we do is we have morning huddles with the family. And so we get up, and I'm probably one of the only parents, just kidding, I'm sure I'm not, but we're one of those parents during this whole thing. Our kids still get up at 7 a.m. We have our morning huddle. We do our morning stuff. They walk the dog. They do all of that. But we walk through what our day is. And we say, hey, during this time, you guys are not on the meetings. You're not on the internet. I absolutely do not let my kids get on Xbox because I live in the country, and I often tease that the squirrels, however fast they run, is how fast my internet's going. So I can't have my kids playing on the Xbox or PlayStation or whatever it is if I'm trying to be presenting a webinar. So we have that discussion every morning. They also have Zoom calls now. They're in school. They have Zoom meetings. And so it's become a very interesting conversation of when are you guys on? When are we on? When do we need to have quiet time in the house? But it's really important. 5 important routine do's and don'ts. Take regular breaks from looking at your computer screen. Don't just stare at your computer screen all day long. Don't insist on powering through an entire 8-hour day while staring at your computer screen. Do set up a stationary workstation. We've talked about that. Do keep regular work hours. We've talked about that. Take breaks. Go for a walk. If you usually went for a walk every day at lunch, go for a walk. If you didn't regularly go for a walk every day because you were too busy, make time to go for a walk. I think it's really important to get that physical activity in. Wrap up your day and check out completely. Again, we've talked about that. Maybe switch into sweatpants. Maybe do a meditation. Don't continue to work into the evening because you're near your computer. Don't have your computer sitting on your lap while you're decompressing, watching your Netflix or Disney or whatever you're watching. Take that time. Separate those times. It'll help your mental health and help your productivity. Stay engaged socially. Do not let physical isolation send you into an emotional slump. There are a lot of free applications. We talked about those in the first webinar that allow you to talk with people. Have a Zoom happy hour. Have Martha talked about how her group of friends are ding-dong ditching each other. So they're putting little gifts on the door, dinging the doorbell and running away because they don't actually have time, not have time, but because of social distancing, they don't want to talk, but they want to be still giving each other things and setting those social interactions with your work people. If you had a water cooler conversation every morning, stick to that water cooler conversation. if you were somebody who at the end of the day every day had a wrap-up meeting at work, or you all ate lunch together, continue to all eat lunch together. I know there are several groups that was their work. Every day at noon, they all took lunch and they ate lunch together and sat and had a conversation. If that was your practice when you were in the workplace, that should still be your practice in the virtual platform. That allows you to have that social interaction with your team as well. Here's a sample routine that we can kind of talk about. I do like the little plants there because it talks about, don't forget you need to drink water, get sunlight. Basically, you're a house plant with complicated emotions. And again, I'm not going to walk through all of these for you, but really look at that. And then family huddles with children working at home. Let's find out if we like each other. That's kind of funny, but you want to be sure you're communicating to your family that you do have work to do and that you need to set those parameters. And whether you're someone like me who is on a go-to meeting, on a Zoom, on a WebEx 3 or 4 times a day, or if you're somebody who just has things you need to get done, you still need to designate that time. I love this sign. This is actually, I believe, from Jen's house. Mums in a meeting, 9:30, 11, do not enter. The answer to your question might be here. It's upstairs. It's in the wash. No piece of fruit in your bedroom, or I don't know what's for dinner. I think that's excellent. But set those times, set those parameters. And again, depending on the age of your kids, depends on how well you can do that. It's very hard to negotiate with a 3-year-old. I understand that. But at the same time, if your spouse is present or someone else is present, set that time that I'm going to be working from, maybe your work schedule does need to fluctuate. Maybe you're working from 6 a.m. to noon and then taking a break, and then your spouse is working a different schedule. But have those conversations, but understand that the productivity is a priority because we want to keep our jobs and we want to continue to do our jobs. But at the same time, we understand that this is a stressful time. If you're binging Netflix every day and counting it as work hours, that's not what your supervisor wants. And that's not what's going to keep our machines all moving forward.
All right, Amy, thanks. This is Jennifer. Thanks everyone for being on today, and welcome back to the 3rd webinar. And I cannot take credit for the moms at work picture. It was in the Twitterverse. I wish I was that creative to make a sign like that. I'm going to talk a little bit about how COVID-19 is affecting our mental health. And as Amy mentioned, we are not mental health professionals, but whether we like it or not, the coronavirus is definitely affecting how we feel. It's disrupting our work situations, whether you're really good at remote working, whether you've done it before, or whether you're completely new, it is a disruption, and we're all navigating new situations pretty much every day. The fear of job loss or job loss itself, someone yourself, those are the kind of things that produce anxiety. Concerns about health and safety is an obvious one. The anxiety related to the state of the world right now, and the question of, when will things be normal again, and how uncertainty also helps feed our anxieties. So not unlike grief, dealing with disaster has stages, and to acknowledge that we're in a pandemic disaster situation, and that it takes us a while as humans to adjust. That in your first stage, in the first couple of weeks when we were all kind of getting used to this, we were focused on security issues. We were trying to figure out some of the things that, how you feel sane in this situation. A second stage is that mental shift of like how you can help your brain kind of reset to a new crisis condition and figure out how to really embrace things like humility and patience and kindness. And then a third stage that maybe as we're moving into this 4th week of sheltering in place and maybe 4 more weeks or so to go, figuring out how to make lemons out of lemonade where best you can. So just acknowledging that calamity is a great teacher, and that we're all kind of going through the stages of mental health issues and how disasters affect them. So I just wanted to point out that there are many ways that organizations can focus on mental health. Just re-emphasizing a couple things that my colleagues have said about thinking about those water cooler opportunities. I think Amy's point about if you regularly have lunch with your work colleagues, there's no reason that you couldn't organize a phone conversation or a conference call or a Zoom to check in at lunchtime and kind of keep those things going. But this is a great list for organizational ways to focus on mental health, and we've got the hyperlinks at the bottom if you want to learn more. There are many ways for us to focus on mental health personally. I really love the daily quarantine questions that's in the graphic right here. It really starts with what am I grateful for today? It's a great way to reset. But this, I'm not going to go through this long list, but this is a great checklist, if you will. Are you being flexible? Are you managing your information intake? Are you keeping up with really good practices of staying hydrated and eating properly and getting some fresh air and exercise? And finally, if the inability to cope or focus with your feelings is overwhelming, that's the right time to seek professional mental health. If you want to go any deeper here, there's a great article about how to maintain your mental health while working from home that's in Fast Company. As Amy mentioned with the who do I want to be during COVID-19, we really love this graphic that focuses on what you can control and what you can't control, right? You can control turning off the news. You can control your ability to be kind and to be doing things for other people. You cannot control whether Target has toilet paper on the shelf or not, or when it will be back on the shelf. You cannot control or predict when we might be back in our workplaces again. And so really acknowledging what you can control and what you can't control and letting go of the can't part. And as it says here, when you can find something to control, whether that's a piece of your job or something personally, go ahead and control the heck out of it right now. These are just four other resources if you want to dive a little deeper and learn more. I'm going to give you a quick glimpse at what was in the New York Times article about making stress work for you and the related link to the Rethinking Stress Toolkit at Stanford. It's the irony right now is that stress is bad for your health, but this is also one of the most stressful periods in history since either the Great Depression or the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, right? So the researchers at Stanford were working with Navy SEALs, college students, and business leaders. It wasn't that they weren't any less stressed per se, but they were experiencing their stress in a completely different way by doing these 3 tips to reset your mind to harness the benefits of stress and to make it work for you. And those 3 things very simply are acknowledging that stress, owning it, and figuring out how to use it. And if you want to figure out how to use it, we can't go deeper on this webinar, but you can do this yourself. And this is the benefit of these webinars, is that we're pulling up these tools that you can take the time on your own to go through. The hyperlinks down here, but these are the 7 activities that anybody could start this toolkit, and you can work on ways to make your stress work for you. I'm going to turn it back over to Martha.
Thanks so much, Jen. And now that we've talked about mental health, let's take a second to look at physical health. First, I'd like to talk about your home office. And if you've already set up your home office, I imagine everyone has, take a minute to kind of review to make sure that your ergonomics are in place, because like the inset says, if people wait until things start to hurt, you've already waited a little bit too long. First, place your monitor so that you're not looking down at it, you're not looking up at it, that you're looking straight ahead. The 20-20-20 rule, Amy kind of touched on this a little bit earlier about giving your eyes a break. So every 20 minutes, look at something 20 feet away for 20 seconds, and that gives your eyes a good break. Sit in a slightly reclined position instead of a straight up 90-degree angle. That will help you avoid hip pain. Make sure that your feet are resting flat on the floor. And if you're a shorty like I am, you might need like a footrest or something, but that will help you avoid leg cramps. Also, keep your wrists flat and straight when you're using a keyboard, just like you would in the office. That will help avoid carpal tunnel or aggravating carpal tunnel. And the related reading at the bottom are two really nice things from Cornell. It's kind of a yes/no questionnaire to answer. You can kind of go through your workspace and do your little own home self or go evaluation. And just here's a quick kind of a chart that you can use to see what your problem is and what your adjustment is. Again, if your neck and shoulders hurt, make sure that monitor is at eye level. If your eyes are tired, remind yourself to take a break. You might need to set an alarm on your phone or something. I find that helps me quite a bit. If your hips are getting a little tight, recline your seat. Leg cramps, again, footrest, wrists, and backache, you might need to adjust your chair or have a little back support. But the important thing to remember is, I think overall that I got from the research that I looked at is just maintain your body in a relaxed position. I think it's harder when you're at home. You don't have as many interruptions to kind of just assume a position and stay in it. I know that's a problem for me. So just remember to take breaks, to stand up, stretch yourself out a little bit. And now, let's see, I think Amy is going to talk about the importance of keeping in touch with others.
Yes, and I also want to say that I'm very guilty. I've been doing a lot of stretches with my shoulders and my neck, and I'm realizing it's because my laptop screen is downward, so I need to address that. So even though we've been doing the research on it, doesn't mean we're experts in practicing as much as we are preaching, so we'll need to keep practicing what we're preaching. Very important to keep in touch with others. No matter what your family unit looks like, you will need a team in the weeks and months ahead. And we've talked about this a lot. Devise a strategy for social connectedness with small groups of family, friends, neighbors, while maintaining the physical distancing. There are a lot of mechanisms for this. You can look at if you have FaceTime. If you have Zoom. One of the things that you all put in the question, somebody put in the question that it doesn't really matter. We should be kind enough to each other. If I'm not wearing makeup today, to be kind enough with each other to say, yes, you can turn your camera on because I want to see you, and it doesn't matter if you have makeup on. And I think that's a wonderful sentiment. So thank you for kind of recentering us on what is important to seeing each other. And those opportunities are really great for just your mental ideas, but also for your physical ideas. That helps you just feel better to see other people. Don't lock yourself in your house and break off all connections with the world. That's no one is telling us to do that. That's not good for our mental health at all. Organize online email groups. Have a group game night. One of the things that we have found in our house is we do a lot of game nights. Monopoly, I am losing horribly to my children, but Monopoly is going very well in our house. We play Clue. We do all kinds of fun things like that. But do that with we also had my mother-in-law, who was in Florida, Zoom in for the Clue the other night. And so she played Clue with us, which was really kind of entertaining, but at the same time, engaging for her as well, because she does live alone in Florida. Leave goodies and gifts, play interactive phone games with friends. If you have teams set up, Martha for us set up a happy hour. So we post things that we're doing when we're not at work. So for example, posting the fact that, we had a fire on Friday night, or one of our coworkers put out 120 some things of mulch this weekend for his yard. So things like that are really kind of fun. Write letters, send cards. I think that's really important. People still are getting mail. Yes, you need to have proper precautions with mail, but send cards. Let people know that you're thinking of them. And be mindful of milestones that your friends and family are missing: birthdays, graduations, showers, things of that nature. Depending on what age that person is and depending on what kind of milestone it is, those are a big deal to them. And so we need to acknowledge that and be kind. I think the big message across all of this whole COVID experience is, as I said, the governor said so eloquently, lead with empathy. Be kind. Be kind to each other, be kind to ourselves, and be kind. Good tips for staying connected and informed. be sure you're staying connected. One of the things that I'm sure after this series, you guys think I'm a crazy mom, but I have a set schedule of things that I need my kids to do every day, because otherwise they will go get on the Xbox. So it's like, clean your rooms on this day and vacuum on this day, but call grandma on this day, call Grammy on this day, call Gigi on this day, call your aunt on this day. And those things are great. Teach our individuals who don't know, teach them about FaceTime, Skype, Google Hangout. Stay informed is really important as well. And helping you navigate that scene helps you navigate that staying connected. So staying informed, knowledge is power. Listen to what they're saying. We are now apparently going to be wearing face masks. I don't think it's a declaration yet, but that's something that we need to be aware of. And then how do we get our hands on those face masks? How do we make those face masks? If you have a friend or a parent, or if it's you who sews, there's a lot of opportunities and things out there to make a face mask for other individuals. Limit media consumption. We've talked about that already. One of the things I think is important is being sure we have purpose. One of you mentioned in the question pane that your big challenge is that work is there and it's a great distraction, but that means work is there and it's a great distraction, so you find yourself working all the time. You need to, for your own mental health and your own sanity, to take that break and step away from work. Also set boundaries. Another one of you mentioned that you're getting emails at 8 p.m. and are you supposed to respond to those emails when you're getting them at 8 p.m.? Whoever that person is depends on kind of your response. And I understand that. I have individuals in my life who, if they're emailing me at 8 p.m., I need to be responding right away. I have other individuals in my life who I can say, you know what, I'm going to be working from 8 to 5, and if it's after 5, that's my family time. So set those boundaries with those individuals who you can set those boundaries with, and be sure they know your boundaries. I'm working within the regular workday, or hey, today I'm working from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. or something like that. I think we're good for the next one because I know we're getting close on time. Develop a self-care toolkit, and that is going back over to Jennifer.
Hi, all right. So this is our 6th best practice. It's slightly different than focusing on your mental health. This is something that's going to look different for everybody, but really think about during this time when you feel the anxiety bubbling up inside. Think of the different sensory things that you can pull yourself back down, whether that is the smell of a candle, the sound of waves, or a certain song, things that are in that touch, taste, sight, hearing, smell category. Things that can be part of your self-care toolkit might include, your favorite sweatpants, or having flowers that the crocus in your garden coming up. There are different things for different people, but don't forget to kind of think about having your own toolkit when you feel that anxiety kind of rising in your throat, to kind of get back in control and have those, like that reset button. Everybody who knows me knows that I have a connection to Denmark, and I couldn't get away with not mentioning the word hygge. And hygge is basically just another word for coziness, right? It's derived from the Norwegian word for well-being. It's a way to figure out how to sort of take things a little slower, enjoy some simple pleasures in life. And the interesting thing is that hygge was developed as a survival mechanism, right? It's an anecdote to the harsh and very dark Nordic winters that are there. So think about, like, how are you going to establish your own hygge? And it was interesting that the LA Times immediately had an article about how our isolation is one opportunity to kind of bring that notion of hygge to the forefront. So our 7th best practice is focused on productivity during this time, and how mental health and sort of your well-being has an impact on productivity. So, I mean, this is a quote from someone who is a work from home person continuously, but it's really about figuring out how to be sort of kind to yourself, and realize what you need to be productive. We had different pieces of this message in the previous 2 webinars, but wanted to re-emphasize the point. So a key to productivity is that place your mask over your own mouth before assisting others, right? There is a list of things that you need to honor in your body, mind, and spirit that simply affect your productivity, right? If you are overtired, over hungry, scared, anxious, have not gotten any fresh air in a while, feel caged up, all of those things are going to affect your focus and your productivity. We don't have time to go through this, but this is another one of those fun things that you can do on your own. The New York Times, actually before we were all sheltering in place, had a 7-day series on how to be more productive in 7 days. The center has created a slide deck for this series. It's on our website. It doesn't take long to do, and it's a great thing to boost your productivity skills. Similarly, if you're less interested in sort of reading and doing and feel like a podcast, Fast Company has a fantastic podcast, The Secrets of the Most Productive People. There are 3 in the series, and we've got the links embedded here. And if you're really eager to dive into more, we've got a resource list and a couple different kind of trigger quotes here to give you a sense of what are in some of these articles. Amy, I'm going to turn it back to you to talk about technology.
Thank you, Jen. And you're getting an overwhelming response about the Hygge and the Norwegian ancestry and all of that. So very exciting. We're all very dependent on technology now. We were dependent on it before, and it really had infiltrated our lives. But now it is essential that it works, and sometimes it doesn't. And so the point is, the reason this is the best practice is don't let technology get you down. All of you are joining us today via the GoToWebinar platform. Maybe this is the platform that you feel most comfortable in. Maybe it's not. Maybe you've experienced some issues. I have. I've had some very interesting issues with my own my work laptop, because my university decided that we were going to encrypt all of the data on everyone's laptop after we were all given the work from home directive. And so I got a BitLocker notion or BitLocker acknowledgement that I needed to have a BitLocker key. And so for the first 2 weeks of our quarantine, I started my morning by contacting our wonderful and lovely IT staff at ISU College of Education. Shout out there, they're a great team. And having them give me my BitLocker key to get in until we got it rectified. Again, be kind. If I was snarky with that person, they might not have wanted to get online with me every morning at 7:15 so I could start my day at 8 o'clock. And also just understand that it happens. It's not anyone's fault. Sometimes the Wi-Fi connection is great. Sometimes it's not. Many of you have mentioned that your sound is going in and out. Some of that has to do with the connection or your web accessibility. Sometimes there's a glitch in how fast something loads. I often joke that it's how fast your squirrels are running or my squirrels are running, because my internet is literally shot off a grain elevator. And if you don't know what a grain elevator is, I'll explain it later. Look it up. It's fantastic. But don't let technology get you down. And I love the analogy of please wait while the wizard installs the software, because we are a big Harry Potter family in my house. And that is often kind of the case. But take a breath when those things happen. Let people know that if you're having issues, say, you know what, my internet's not working today, or my email's down today. But also just then take a breath and say, okay, how do I fix it? Or what are those other options? And that good old-fashioned phone call also does work. If you can't have a Zoom meeting, possibly, if it's a 1 or 2 person meeting, just call that person. That's also something that we were talking about earlier, is Martha spoke about. If there's frustration, if there's a miscommunication because of all the texting and all the emails and everything, pick up the phone. Don't be afraid to actually pick up the phone and talk to people. I know it's a little old school, but it really does work very well.
Thanks, Amy.
And now I'm handing this back over to Martha. And Martha, again, they're saying you need to speak clearly and hold that microphone close. But
okay.
Wrap us up with finding fun and laughter.
All right. When you were talking about the stress, one thing I wanted to add that I overlooked before, about kind of reducing anxiety when you've had a stressful day and your technology doesn't work. One thing is I found is repetitive motion. I knit a lot. Anything that has even kind of a swaying motion to it, like skating or, cross-country skiing or whatever. And movement from left to right, there's a lot of research that says that's very calming for us. And I thought about it, and I don't think that it's a coincidence that anytime someone hands you a screaming baby, that you start to sway. And I thought about it, and I started swaying from left to right. So that's just one thing. Get a lot of fresh air and sunshine. Find the fun and laughter. It's kind of hard right now, but try to find something humorous or ironic in every day. Personally, I think it's hilarious that we're getting all these touchy-feely car ads right now when no one can go anywhere. There's a lot to be worried about, but counterbalance that with something funny each day. Cat videos on YouTube, stand-up shows on Netflix, your favorite funny movie. Look for your comic relief or provide some comic relief. Video a funny anecdote, dig out your high school saxophone. I was treated to a concert from my best friend and her ukulele yesterday. Serenade your friends, create your own news show by interviewing the other people in your house. So those are some ideas. And we also have some good links, as a lot of you know. Here are some of my favorite. John Krasinski from The Office, Some Good News, is a wonderful, wonderful little video show that he's doing. I listened to the first one the other day, and he had Steve Carell on, and they talked about The Office. I also laughed a lot at penguins taking a tour of the Shed Aquarium. While nobody's visiting the Shed Aquarium, they're kind of busting out some of the other creatures and letting them have run of the place, and it's really cute. Bored Panda is one of my favorite sites. There's a guy who's posting dad jokes in his yard every day, and some of them are just cringeworthy. And Jimmy Fallon's I'm So Bored, find out what people are doing because they're so bored. And here are some examples. I really like the toga on the dog. And my favorite, though, is the COVID support ribbon, because every cause needs a support ribbon. So it's been great talking with you today. And now I'll send it back to Amy.
Thank you, Martha. Couple housekeeping things, and then we're going to close with the same quote that we've kind of had as our theme throughout this series. If you are looking for these materials, they are on our website. As we started in the chat box there, you should be able to see the links to the ICSPS Thriving in a Virtual Workplace webinar series. That's available on our website. It's also available on WorkNet. Just like every other week, we will be sending out tomorrow a link to the resources, as well as the presentation as a PDF with all the hyperlinks working, so you can do your exploring and have some self-reflection on your own time. And then in addition to that, there's a survey in that email. And if you have enjoyed what you have seen and you have some other questions, or there are some other things that we haven't covered in the first three, we invite you to complete that survey, because we're looking at that. We've looked at it every week, and we're looking at ways in which we can help you and support the system. We do have a webinar coming up in response to those surveys on April 29th. We have partnered with the Illinois Professional Development Network for Adult Education, and Anita Kerr is going to be presenting with us on how to best reach your students during this virtual realm that we're existing in. So she's going to go through things like the Remind app and Zoom and some other fun tips and tricks for how you can talk to your customers, your clients, your students. And I know a couple of you had questions about that during that first webinar. Is there a way to mask your personal cell phone so your clients, customers, and students don't have your personal cell phone? And that is the Remind app. So if you are interested in that, please join us on April 29th. Next week, we're going to be looking at group discovery through the employer standpoint, and kind of going back to that idea of how do we engage with employers and meet their needs. But we'll be sending all of that out as well. I do want to close today with our quote there. Can we go back just a second? To be kind to yourself. With so many people working from home, the bottom line is we probably won't be as productive, and there are distractions, and there is stress, and there are other things. So it is important to reset your expectations, be productive as you can, and all productive, I can't say that word, productivity does go out the window, but you need to be flexible and adapt. And again, set your boundaries, all those things we've talked about today. This last slide I just love because, well, I'm a duct tape person, and contrary to popular belief, duct tape is not the solution to every problem. I do want to open the floor to questions. We have not had a lot of questions here today, but those that we have had, I've been able to address. So with that, I just want to thank you all for attending today. And any other questions or comments, I'll give a second there, and then we can just kind of wrap up. Looking through here, it looks like thank you all as well. Again, everything will be shared out. Visit us on the Thriving for the Digital Workplace, virtual workplace, and be safe, wash your hands, stay home when you can, take care of yourself, take care of others, and we really thank you for spending this hour with us. Have a great day.